Mulat Tazabu's perspective on existence, the self, and reality. The essence of human existence, when scrutinized under a philosophical and metaphysical lens, reveals a paradox. The self, as we understand it, may not truly exist. What we perceive as our self could in fact be a mere illusion, an ephemeral construct shaped by memories and projections, an experience arising from a mind that has already ceased to exist in a traditional sense. In my contemplation, I propose that the self is a product of the memory of a dead soul or a dreaming mind, and that the entire world with all its experiences exists solely as a manifestation within this consciousness. In this view, everything around us, from our perceptions of time to our interactions with other beings, is an experience of what remains of a once living, now dead soul. This idea requires us to examine the nature of existence, reality, and the self with a profound depth that challenges the very foundations of our understanding. At the heart of this perspective is the assertion that the self is not a permanent, independent entity. We often define our existence by the continuous flow of thoughts, memories, and experiences that constitute our identity. However, upon deeper reflection, it becomes apparent that the self is a transient and illusory phenomenon, an experience that emerges and fades within the mind, rather than something that persists as an unchanging essence. The self as an illusion. From a metaphysical standpoint, the idea of a fixed, enduring self is a construct, an illusion shaped by the mind's need for continuity and coherence. In reality, there is no permanent I, but rather a dynamic interplay of thoughts, emotions, and perceptions, each arising and passing away in a continuous cycle. This aligns with philosophical schools of thought, such as Buddhism's doctrine of Anatman, which posits that the self is not a singular, unchanging entity, but a collection of fleeting phenomena. The dead soul. What if the self we experience is not truly alive, but is merely a projection of a dead soul's lingering consciousness? In this view, the soul, which once inhabited a living being, is now gone, leaving behind only memories, reflections, and an ongoing mental process that continues to generate the illusion of existence. The self, therefore, is not a true living entity, but an after-effect of something that no longer truly exists. If we accept that the self is not an enduring entity, but the lingering memory of a dead soul, it follows that everything we experience, the world around us, our relationships, our perceptions, is not external to us, but exists within the mind of this dead soul, the world as a mental projection. In this framework, the entire external world, including other people and objects, is a projection of the soul's mind. These projections are not independent entities, but are created by the dead soul's memory and consciousness. This concept parallels solipsism, the idea that only one's own mind can be known to exist, and everything else is a construct of that mind. Here, the mind that creates these projections is no longer alive in the traditional sense, but is the last trace of a dead soul, continuing to produce an illusion of reality long after its source has died. The role of memory. Memory plays a crucial role in this process. If the self is merely the memory of a dead soul, then everything we perceive, including the passage of time, our interactions with others, and even our own sense of identity, is shaped by the remnants of that memory. The dead soul's recollection of its existence continues to create a sense of continuity, though it is no more than a mental echo. Building on this idea, I propose that our existence may be akin to a dream, not a waking reality, but a constructed experience within the mind of the dead soul. Much like our dreams feel real while we are in them, the waking world may be no different. A projection of consciousness continuing in a dreamlike state, even though the dreamer is no longer alive. The dream state of reality. If everything exists as an experience within the mind of a dead soul, then reality itself becomes a dream state. Just as dreams contain vivid and convincing experiences that dissipate upon waking, our perceptions of reality might be no different. The dead soul is the dreamer, and what we interpret as the world is simply a continuation of its last thoughts, an ongoing mental process that creates the illusion of an external reality. Existence as a dream. This leads to a radical reconsideration of the nature of existence. Perhaps we are not truly living in any traditional sense, but instead we are part of a dream experience, a projection within a larger mind, the mind of a dead soul that still experiences the world as if alive. This view challenges the typical notion of life as an ongoing, independent existence and suggests that life, in its deepest sense, is nothing more than a fleeting and transient mental phenomenon. From a solipsistic perspective, the entire universe and everything in it, including other beings, objects, and events, exists solely as a creation of this one dead soul. In this view, there is no real separation between the self and the external world. They are both part of the same illusion, part of the same dream. The illusory nature of other minds. If the world exists as a projection of the dead soul's mind, then others are not truly independent individuals with their own thoughts and experiences. Rather, they are characters within the soul's dream, mere reflections of the soul's consciousness. This raises the question of whether true interaction with others is possible if they too are projections of the same mind. The absence of true independence. In this model, the idea of free will and autonomy becomes problematic. If everything, every person, every event, every perception is merely a projection within the mind of the dead soul, then true independence and freedom may be illusory. Our actions, thoughts, and desires are not products of an independent will, but are instead generated by the remnants of a consciousness that no longer exists in a living sense. This perspective leads to profound ethical and existential questions. If everything is a projection of the dead soul, what does that mean for our moral responsibilities, our relationships, and our sense of purpose? The ethics of projections. If others are merely projections of the same mind, then ethical considerations become murky. How do we treat others who do not truly exist as independent beings? This could lead to a nihilistic view where moral responsibility is dismissed, or it could inspire a deeper compassion, understanding that even though others are projections, they are still experienced as real by the mind. The ethical dilemma here is how to reconcile the projection of others' experiences with the notion of moral responsibility. The search for meaning. The realization that life is an illusion created by a dead soul may lead some to nihilism, believing that nothing has inherent meaning. However, it could also prompt a sense of liberation. If life is an illusion, then we are no longer bound by the constraints of identity, fate, or purpose. We can free ourselves from the attachments that bind us to a specific notion of self and reality, embracing the possibility of creative self-expression and transformation. This perspective challenges us to reconsider the very nature of reality. If everything is a projection of the dead soul's mind, then the distinction between the real world and a dream world becomes blurred. In this view, life itself could be a continuous dream, a simulation that plays out within the confines of the mind. What we perceive as objective reality is merely the interpretation of that mind, a reflection of its past, its memories, and its lingering consciousness. Reality as a construct. This approach invites us to question the validity of our sensory perceptions. If all we experience is a projection of the dead soul's mind, then the world around us may not be as real as we think. Our senses, our thoughts, and even our sense of time could all be constructs arising from the mind's need to create an illusion of continuity and reality. In conclusion, my perspective on existence proposes that the self we experience is not a living entity, but a transient memory of a dead soul. Everything we perceive, every interaction and every experience exists solely within the mind of this soul. This world, along with everything in it, is an illusion, a projection of the lingering consciousness of something that no longer truly exists. By recognizing the illusory nature of the self and the world, we are invited to transcend traditional notions of existence and identity, embracing the possibility that life, as we know it, is but a fleeting experience within the mind of a dead soul. This perspective, while deeply philosophical, encourages a more profound understanding of existence, urging us to explore the nature of self, reality, and consciousness from a place of introspection and enlightenment. It's a call to reconsider the boundaries of perception and the continuity of being.